Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Management Studies, SOMS, Certificate in Business Skills, CBS. BCOA 001 Business Communication and Entrepreneurship. Part 1 Communication Skills for Business. Unit 2 Putting Grammar to Use, 2.0 Objectives. In the previous unit we had emphasized more on basic grammar skills and basic rules. For writing, in this unit, we will be able to make the subject and verb agree in a sentence. Use the active voice and the passive voice. Write a paragraph including topic sentences. Write multiple paragraphs using different methods of development. Write business, inquiry, and response letters, and write a memo. 2.1 Introduction. Now that you have reviewed the parts of speech and punctuation, you are ready to put that knowledge to use in creating sentences and then paragraphs. This unit focuses on writing clear sentences and well-organized paragraphs. You will move from writing single paragraphs to writing multi-paragraph constructions. And you will apply what you learn in this section to business writing. There is a lot of opportunity for practice, and you are encouraged to share your work and to ask for help from your colleagues and group members. The more writing you read, the better you will become at recognizing good work. As in Unit 1, you should keep a dictionary on hand at all times. A good thesaurus will also be required. A thesaurus contains listings of words and their synonyms, words that have the same meaning, and antonyms, words that mean the opposite. As you practice writing, you will find that choosing the right word for your audience will be much easier if you use a thesaurus, and as a final hint, keep Unit 1 close at hand. You might find that you need to refer to an earlier self-assessment activity while proceeding through this Unit. 2.2 Mastering Subject-Verb Agreement. Read these sentences aloud and put a check mark beside the one that you think are grammatically incorrect. We paid for our meals, but the drinks were free of charge. If anybody arrives late, he or she will not get a seat. Neither the dogs nor the cat are anywhere to be found. We lay on the beach all afternoon. Neither of them want to go bowling. Most people can hear a problem in a sentence before being able to identify it. Something just doesn't sound right, and it's not. In the incorrect sentences listed above, the problem is that the subject and the verb do not agree. Check your answers with those that follow. Correct. We paid for our meals, but the drinks free of charge. If anybody arrives late, he or she will not get a seat. We on the beach all afternoon. Incorrect. Neither the dogs nor the cat are anywhere to be found. Correction. Neither the dogs nor the cat is anywhere to be found. Neither of them want to go bowling. Correction. Neither of them wants to go bowling. Some grammar rules change over the years and centuries, but one will probably never change. Subject and verb must agree. If the subject is singular, then so is the verb. Plural subjects take plural verbs. Here's an example of the singular and plural forms of a regular verb. First person I play we play. Second person you play. 31d person he, she, it plays they play. Note that the third person singular and plural forms are not identical. This is where you might run into problems. In the third person, the endings of the subject and the verb do not match. Singular third-person verbs end in s, but singular subjects do not. Example: the student works. Joe sleeps. Plural subjects end in s, but plural verbs do not. Example: the students work. The boys sleep. Example: chips are my favorite snack. My favorite snack is chips. As long as you can correctly identify the subject and the verb to match them, you will have no difficulty with subject-verb agreement. 2.2.1 Words to trick you. Unfortunately, there are subjects that don't fit into the simple subject-verb agreement rule. There are 6 kinds of these tricky subjects that are just waiting to wreak havoc for the unwary writer. 1. What happens if you have 2 subjects in one sentence? If the subjects are joined by, and then the sentence requires a plural verb. Example: wages and benefits are often the cause of strikes. But watch out when you are joining 2 subjects with the following: either, or, neither, nor, or not, but. In these cases, the verb agrees with the subject nearest to the verb. Examples: neither the government nor the municipalities accept responsibility. Note plural subject, plural verb. Neither the municipalities nor the government accepts responsibility. Note singular subject, singular verb. 2 subjects that look multiple but that are really singular. Don't be fooled by phrases beginning with such words as with, like, as well, together, with, in addition to, or including. These words are not part of the subject and do not affect the verb. Example: my boss, as well as my colleague, helping with my writing. Notice that there are 2 people helping but the subject boss is singular. And so the verb must be singular. Hint: mentally cross out the words of the sentence that are not part of the subject. Example: all my tasks, including letter writing, are easier this year. Mentally cross out the phrase including letter writing so that the subject tasks agrees with the verb are. 3. When words ending in one, body, or thing are used as a subject, they are always singular. Here's a list: anyone, anything, anybody; everyone, everything, everybody; no one, nothing, nobody; someone, something, somebody. Examples: everyone is here. The incorrect form is, everyone are here. Nobody was available for the meeting. The incorrect form is, nobody were available for the meeting. Nothing gets done once the project funding is gone. The incorrect form is, nothing get done once the project funding is gone. 4. Used as subjects, the words each, on, either, on, or neither, on take singular verbs. Example: either was suitable for the job. Each of the boys dreams of becoming a football star. Neither of the teams wants to play tonight. 5. Be careful when you use collective nouns. A collective noun names a group. Some examples are gang, band, class, group, audience, committee, company, and majority. When you are referring to the group acting as a unit, use a singular verb. Example: our office gives a birthday party to each employee. When you are referring to the members of the group acting individually, use a plural verb. Example: a number are here to see the supervisor. This refers to individual people waiting to see the supervisor. The singular form of the verb needs to be used when referring to units of money, time, mass, length, and distance. Example: $6 is too much to pay for a coffee. 2 hours seems like a long time to wait. 20 kilometers is not that far to hike. 2.3. Using the active and passive voice. Most verbs can be classified according to voice. They can be either active or passive. If you want your writing to be understood by your reader, you need to know the difference between the two voices. Here is the rule to follow. Use the active voice unless you have a specific reason to use the passive voice. You probably use verbs in the passive voice more often than you think. To be an effective writer, you need to understand the effect on your reader of using either the active or the passive voice. 2.3.1 Active voice. When the subject of the clause is performing the action, the verb is in the active voice. In other words, the subject acts. Example: this machine replaces 2 workers. Sachin will present his research at the next conference. After Lalita had submitted her paper for correction, the instructor marked it. In each of the sentences listed above, the subject, in bold, is performing the action, the underlined verb. Sentences in the active voice emphasize the person doing the action. 2.3.2 Passive voice. When the subject is being acted upon, the verb is in the passive voice. Sentences that use the passive voice emphasize the action or the result of the action, rather than who or what performs it. Example: 2 workers are replaced by the machine. Research will be presented by Sachin at the next conference. After the paper had been submitted by Lalita, it was marked by her instructor. Notice that all of the passive voice sentences have 2 things in common. 1. The verbs consist of some form of be, make, or have the past participle. The past participle is sometimes the same as the past tense form, as in he lost, it was lost, but other times it is not, as in he ate, it was eaten. Example: the paper was lost in the wind. The stone carvings are being eroded with time and weather. 2. The sentences containing passive verbs tend to be longer than those with active verbs. 3. Another way to recognize passive voice sentences is that they may include a phrase with, by, the. Example: the committee's recommendation was rejected by the president. 2.3.3 When to use the active or the passive voice. The choice between using the active or the passive voice is a matter of style, not correctness. However, most textbooks recommend using the active voice, which is more direct, concise, and action-oriented. It is best to use the active voice in most business writing. Sentences that contain passive verbs tend to be wordy and sometimes confusing. Overuse of the passive voice can make your writing flat and uninteresting. However, this does not mean that there is no place for the passive voice. There are 3 situations in which you should use the passive voice. 1. The person who performed the action is notifying police that the thief the car. Examples: our telephone had been left off the hook for 2 days. This keyboard, not the students. If we write the same sentence in the active voice, the effect is quite different. A group of angry students broke into the computer lab. 3. You are writing a technical, scientific, or legal report. Passive verbs are an appropriate choice when the focus is on the facts, methods, or procedures involved. Using passive verbs tends to create an impersonal tone that is suitable for these kinds of writing. Contrast the emphasis in the following sentences. Passive, our annual report was approved by the board yesterday. Active, the board approved our annual report yesterday. Passive, police are being notified by the witness that the car has been taken by the thief. Active, the witness. 2.4 Writing paragraphs. Putting grammar to use. Once you have mastered the grammar and punctuation used in constructing sentences, you are ready to move on to more complex constructions. If the sentence is the foundation of good writing, paragraphs are the frames on which to build your document. Few readers will be able to follow your thoughts unless you present well-organized ideas in your writing. In this section, you will learn the main components of a paragraph, how paragraphs are formed, and how to support your ideas within a paragraph. You will also learn how to link two or more paragraphs together, and you will have ample opportunity to practice. 2.4.1 What is a paragraph? A paragraph is a series of sentences that are organized, coherent, and related to a single topic. Almost every piece of writing that you do will be organized into paragraphs. Dividing your work into paragraphs shows the reader where the subdivisions of your thoughts begin and end. This helps the reader to grasp the main points of your writing. Paragraphs contain many different kinds of information. A paragraph can contain a series of brief examples to illustrate a point. It might describe a person, place, or process, narrate a series of events, compare and contrast two or more things, classify items by category, or show a cause and effect relationship. A paragraph is constructed of three components in the following order. Component and description. 1. Topic sentence, a sentence that introduces the topic or main idea. 2. Body, three or more sentences that explain or support your topic. 3. Conclusion, a sentence that concludes your explanation of the topic. 2.4.2 Topic sentence. Every paragraph contains two things, a topic sentence and several sentences that develop the topic. A good way to stall a paragraph is to write a sentence that clearly states your main idea. This is the topic sentence. The key to making the paragraph unified is to make sure that each of your supporting sentences relates directly to the topic sentence. This forms the body of the paragraph. Topic sentences are like a contract between the writer and the reader. The writer is saying, I have an idea and I'd like to explain it to you, and the reader is saying, okay, explain it to me. For the writer to hold to the contract, he or she must state the main idea in the topic sentence and then explain this idea in the body of the paragraph. A good topic sentence is a statement that is broad enough to be developed by specific details. However, if the topic sentence is too general, the paragraph will be too long from trying to adequately explain the topic or will contain nothing but general statements. Ask yourself these questions when evaluating a topic sentence. Does the topic sentence present one single idea? 0 Is the topic sentence an overgeneralization? Does the topic sentence give a strong direction to the rest of the paragraph? Example. Vague, employees bum out at the office. Precise, when the workload is manageable, an employee is less likely to bum out. Vague, the computer is a great machine. Precise, the computer is the key machine of the modern age due to its influence on both the use of technology and the habits of people. 2.4.3 Writing supporting sentences. The supporting sentences in a paragraph provide the details that develop your topic sentence. You need to prove to the reader that the information you are providing is based on facts or opinions that can be supported by a combination of the following, also called the RENNS principle: reasons, examples, names, numbers, and senses, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. If you use the RENNS principle, you will write well-supported paragraphs that lead the reader to the concluding sentence. RENNS principle: reasons, examples, names, numbers, senses, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. Note: a further explanation of how to develop a paragraph, including the supporting sentences, is outlined in the next section. Use the RENNS principle when you are checking your supporting sentences. 2.4.4 Concluding sentences. The concluding sentence is usually the last sentence of your paragraph. It summarizes the information discussed in the paragraph and the paragraph's main idea. 2.4.5 Developing a paragraph. How do you put a paragraph together? First, you need to write out your topic sentence, telling your reader what the main point or idea is that you will develop in your paragraph. Next, you need to develop the main idea. A well-written paragraph has enough supporting sentences to make the topic complete and clear to the reader. An average paragraph is 75 to 200 words long, approximately 6 to 10 sentences, but this is not a strict rule. So you will need lots of supporting information for each point. Unless someone has supplied you with a detailed outline, you will have to organize your thoughts and ideas. The best thing is to put yourself in the reader's place. What does your reader need to know to understand your point clearly? If you ask yourself this question, you will be able to decide what kinds of development to use to support your topic. Sentence. There are 3 methods by which you can develop a good, clear paragraph: by example, or detail, by comparison and contrast, or by process. 2.4.6 Paragraph development by example or detail. This is the most common and easiest form of paragraph development. You simply expand on a general topic sentence using specific examples or illustrations. Read the following paragraph and underline the details that support the main idea. The main idea is identified by italics. One Chinese man waiting for the passenger ship to dock at the pier at the foot of Granville Street stood out from the crowd by virtue of his nearly 6-foot frame. He had a body that was all limbs, long even in his fingers, which gave his every gesture an elongated emphasis. A fedora graced his head, and he was attired in a custom-tailored 3-piece grey suit. His shoes and wire-rimmed glasses were polished and his black hair meticulously combed to expose a high forehead, a physical trait the Chinese consider a sign of intelligence. He owned 2 suits, one grey, the other brown, and 2 fedoras. Believing one's appearance mirrored one's inner mind, his appearance today was, as always, immaculate. His manner, like his dress, was sober and serious. At 37, he was a year younger than the city of Vancouver. Notice how the paragraph uses the appearance of the man to tell us not only about his physical appearance, but also what he is like as a person. Here is how the paragraph was developed using details. Topic sentence. One Chinese man stood out flowing the crowd because of his appearance. Supporting examples or details. Physical details: 6 feet tall, all limbs, long fingers. Hair, meticulous, black, high forehead. Clothing, fedora, 3-piece, custom-made, grey suit, polished glasses and shoes. Manner, serious, sober. Concluding sentence. His manner, like his dress, was sober and serious. 2.4.7 Paragraph development by comparison and contrast. You should consider developing your paragraph by comparison and contrast when you are describing 2 or more things which have something, but not everything, in common. This method is often useful when writing about 2 programs. You may choose to compare either point by point, X is big, Y is little, X and Y are both purple, or subject by subject, X is big and purple, Y is small and purple. Consider, once again, the following paragraph. In Delhi, a flashing red traffic light instructs drivers to careen even more wildly through intersections heavily populated with pedestrians and oncoming vehicles. In startling contrast, an amber light in Mumbai warns drivers to scream to a halt on the off chance that there might be a pedestrian within 500 meters who might consider crossing at some unspecified time within the current day. In my hometown of Haryana, finally, traffic lights, along with painted lines and posted speed limits, do not apply to tractors, all-terrain vehicles, or pickup trucks, which together account for most of the vehicles on the road. In fact, were any observant Indian dropped from an alien space vessel at an unspecified intersection anywhere in this vast land, he or she could almost certainly orient him or herself according to the surrounding traffic patterns. This paragraph compares traffic patterns in 3 areas of India. This contrast is done in order to make a point about how attitudes in various places affect behavior. People in these areas have in common the fact that they all drive. In contrast, they drive differently according to the area in which they live. It is important to note that the paragraph above considers only one aspect of driving behavior at traffic lights. If you wanted to consider 2 or more aspects, you would probably need one paragraph for each aspect, such as stop signs, use of horns, and left-hand turn signals. Example. Paragraph number 1. Topic sentence, stop signs. Supporting sentences using comparison, contrast. A. Describe stop signs in Delhi. B. Describe stop signs in Mumbai. C. Describe stop signs in Haryana. Concluding sentence. Paragraph number 2. Topic sentence, use of horns. Supporting sentences using comparison, contrast. A. Describe use of horns in Delhi. B. Describe use of horns in Mumbai. C. Describe use of horns in Haryana. Concluding sentence. Paragraph number 3. Topic sentence, use of left-hand turn signals. Supporting sentences using comparison, contrast. A. Describe use of left-hand turn signals in Delhi. B. Describe use of left-hand turn signals in Mumbai. C. Describe use of left-hand turn signals in Haryana. Concluding sentence. 2.4.8 Paragraph development by process. Sometimes the most effective way to develop the main idea is to explain how to do it. Use this method in report and proposal writing where you have to explain a complicated set of procedures. Process description often follows a chronological sequence as illustrated in the following paragraph. If these instructions are precise, any reader should be able to grip a fishing rod in the correct manner. The first point to establish is the GNP of the hand on the rod. This should be about halfway up the cork handle, absolutely firm and solid, but not tense or rigid. All four fingers are curved around the handle, the little finger, third finger, and middle finger contributing most of the firmness by pressing the cork solidly into the fleshy part of the palm, near the heel of the hand. The forefinger supports and steadies the grip but supplies its own firmness against the thumb, which should be along the upper side of the handle or somewhere near the top of the grip. The topic sentence establishes that the author will use this paragraph to describe the process, SF establishing the grip of the hand on the rod. And this is exactly what he does. Point by point, notice that the concluding sentence reintroduces the idea of the grip and supplies information on the exact location of the grip. 2.5 Transitions and coherency. In a coherent paragraph, each sentence relates clearly to the topic sentence or main idea. However, there is more to coherence than this. If a paragraph is coherent, each sentence flows smoothly into the next without obvious shifts or jumps. A coherent paragraph also highlights the ties between old information and new information to make the structure of ideas or arguments clear to the reader. Along with the smooth flow of sentences, a paragraph's coherence may also be related to its length. If you have written a very long paragraph, one that fills a double-spaced type page, for example, you should check it carefully to see if you should start a new paragraph where the original paragraph wanders from its main idea. On the other hand, if a paragraph is very short, only one or two sentences, perhaps, you may need to develop its controlling idea more thoroughly. Or combine it with another paragraph. A number of other techniques that you can use to establish coherence in paragraphs are described below. Repeat key words or phrases, particularly in paragraphs in which you define or identify an important idea or theory. Be consistent in how you refer to it. This consistency and repetition will bind the paragraph together and help your reader understand your definition or description. Create parallel structures. Parallel structures are created by constructing two or more phrases or sentences that have the same grammatical structure and use the same parts of speech. By creating parallel structures, you make your sentences clearer and easier to read. In addition, repeating a pattern in a series of consecutive sentences helps your reader to see the connection between ideas. Examples. Incorrect. The tourists decided to visit the museum and seeing everything on display. Notice that the two verb forms are not parallel. Correction. The tourists decided to visit the museum and to see everything on display. When you use bulleted text in your writing, be sure to begin each bullet with the same part of speech. For example, on a resume you may list your work experience as edited copy, supervised layout. I wrote news A. You would not include news writing or I was the editor in this list because the structures are not parallel to those used in the rest of the list. Be consistent in point of view, verb tense, and number. Consistency in point of view, verb tense, and number is a subtle but important aspect of coherence. If you shift from the more personal, you, to the impersonal, one, from past to present tense, or from a man to they, for example, you make your paragraph less coherent. Such inconsistencies can also confuse your reader and make your argument more difficult to follow. Use transitional words or phrases between sentences and between paragraphs. Transitional expressions emphasize the relationships between ideas, so they help readers follow your train of thought or see connections that they might otherwise miss or misunderstand. The following paragraph shows how carefully chosen transitions, in bold, lead the reader smoothly from the introduction to the conclusion of the paragraph. I don't wish to deny that the flattened, minuscule head of the large-bodied Stegosaurus houses little brain from our subjective, top-heavy perspective, but I do wish to assert that we should not expect more of the beast. First of all, large animals have relatively smaller brains than related, smaller animals. The correlation of brain size with body size among kindred animals, all reptiles or all mammals, for example, is remarkably regular. As we move from small to large animals, from mice to elephants or small lizards to Komodo dragons, brain size increases, but not so fast as body size. In other words, bodies grow faster than brains, and large animals have low ratios of brain weight to body weight. In het, brains grow only about 2/3 as het as bodies, since we have no reason to believe that large animals are consistently stupider than their smaller relatives. We must conclude that large animals require relatively less brain to function as well as smaller animals. If we do not recognize this relationship, we are likely to underestimate the mental power of very large animals, particularly dinosaurs. 2.6 Outlines. Before you begin any piece of writing, you need to prepare an outline. Outlines help you to organize your thoughts before you begin writing. This is important when you need to write something that is complex or detailed. The first thing you need to do is write down your main points. Once you have a list, place them in the order in which you would like to present them, leaving lots of space under each point. Now, under each point list all the examples, facts, details, or other supporting information you have that will help you explain your point. Check that these items are arranged in an order that will be clear to your reader. Your outline should look like this. Statement of subject. For example, writing clearly isn't easy. Main point number 1. Supporting material that develops point number 1, i.e., use of examples, details, comparison, contrast, process, or other supporting details. Main point number 2. Supporting material that develops point number 2. Main point number 3. Supporting material that develops point number 3. Example of an outline. Statement of subject. Writing clearly requires 4 things: organization, correct punctuation, correct grammar, and appropriate methods for checking spelling. Main point #I organization of thoughts is necessary for clear writing. Supporting details. Create a cluster diagram or mind map. Put your ideas in groups. Create an outline before you begin writing. Main point number 2. Correct punctuation and grammar usage are necessary for clarity in writing. Supporting details. Use correct sentence construction, proper punctuation. Review writing for errors in grammar usage. Revise and rewrite to correct any errors. Main point number 3. Do not rely on computers to correct spelling errors. Supporting details. Computers don't pick up homonyms. Difficult for a computer to recognize the context of a word, which can cause a spelling error. Important to use a detailed dictionary and have someone review your writing to check for spelling errors. Paragraph checklist. Topic sentence introduces the main idea. Limited to one subject. Development supplies sufficient detail that is arranged in an orderly manner. Concluding sentence ends the paragraph, restates the topic, and is specific. Uses transitional devices. Uses parallel construction. Uses the active voice. Uses correct subject-verb agreement. Contains no fragments, run-ons, or comma faults. Contains no spelling errors. Uses clear and concise language. 2.7 Business letters. In most offices today, employees are asked to write correspondence that can take the form of emails, memos, and letters. Now that you have practiced writing paragraphs, it's time to put that knowledge to use and create your own office correspondence. Take a moment now to read the article, Writing a Good Business Letter, by Brian Greene, located in the resources section at the end of this unit. Mr. Greene reviews the basic components of a business letter and warns against common mistakes. While you are reading the article, underline the topic and concluding sentences in each paragraph and underline what type of paragraph development the author has used. 2.7.1 Writing a business letter. There are many different reasons for writing a business letter. You may want to request a service, reply to a request or complaint, or pass on information to a colleague. Whatever the subject, most business letters follow some general guidelines as described below. Date. The date line is used to indicate the date the letter was written. However, if your letter is completed over a number of days, use the date it was finished in the date line. Write out the month, day, and year 5 centimeters from the top of the page. Left. Justify the date. Sender's address, including the address of the sender, is optional. If you choose to include it, place the address one line below the date. Do not write the sender's name or title, as it is included in the letter's closing. Include only the street address, city, and postal code. Another option is to include the sender's address directly after the closing. Signature. Inside address. The inside address is the recipient's address. It is always best to write to a specific individual at the firm to which you are writing. If you do not have the person's name, do some research by calling the company or speaking with employees from the company. Include a personal title such as Ms., Mrs., Mr., or Dr. The inside address begins one line below the sender's address or 2.5 centimeters below the date. It should be left justified. Salutation, use the same name as the inside address, including the personal title. If you know the person and are on a first name basis, it is acceptable to use only the first name in the salutation, for example, Dear Lucy. In all other cases, use the personal title and last name followed by a colon. Leave one line blank after the salutation. If you don't know a reader's gender, use a non-sexist salutation, such as, to whom it may concern. It is also acceptable to use the full name in a salutation if you cannot determine the person's gender. For example, you might write Dear Chris Hannon if you were unsure of Chris's gender. Body, for block format, single space and left justify each paragraph within the body of the letter. Leave a blank line between paragraphs. When writing a business letter, remember that conciseness is very important. In the first paragraph, consider a friendly opening and then a statement of the main point. The next paragraph should begin justifying the importance of the main point. In the next few paragraphs, continue justification with background information and supporting details. The closing paragraph should restate the purpose of the letter and, in some cases, request some type of action. Closing. The closing begins one line after the last body paragraph. Capitalize the first word only, for example, thank you, and leave 4 lines between the closing and the sender's name for a signature. Enclosures. If you have enclosed any documents along with the letter, such as a report, you indicate this simply by typing enclosures one line below the closing. As an option, you may list the name of each document you are including in the envelope. For instance, if you have included many documents and need to ensure that the recipient is aware of each document, it may be a good idea to list the document names. Typist initials. Typist initials are used to indicate the person who typed the letter. If you typed the letter yourself, omit the typist initials. A note about format and font. When writing business letters, you must pay special attention to the format and font used. The most common layout of a business letter is known as block format. Using this format, the entire letter is left justified and single spaced except for a double space between paragraphs. On the following page, you will find an example of a block format business letter. Sample of a block format letter. March 16, 2007. Andrea English, 1234 Communications Avenue, CM Position City, New York, 12345. Deza Ms. English. The first paragraph of a typical business letter is used to state the main point of the letter. Begin with a friendly opening, then quickly transition into the purpose of your letter. Use a couple of sentences to explain the purpose, but do not go into detail until the next paragraph. Beginning with the second paragraph, state the supporting details to justify your purpose. These may take the form of background information, statistics, or first-hand accounts. A few short paragraphs within the body of the letter should be enough to support your reasoning. Fir tilde ally. In the closing paragraph, briefly restate your purpose and why it is important. If the purpose of your letter is employment-related, consider ending your letter with your contact information. However, if the purpose is informational, think about closing with gratitude for the reader's time. Sincerely, Lucy letter. 2.7.2 Writing an inquiry or request information letter. When you write an inquiry or a request information letter, you need to state your inquiry or request precisely. Be sure that your intended reader understands exactly what you want that person to know. First, briefly, give your reason for writing. If you are making a routine, solicited inquiry or request, be brief and courteous. You don't need to explain why you are writing. If you are making an unsolicited request or inquiry, provide some details about yourself and let the reader know why you have chosen to contact that individual or company. Show appreciation in your conclusion, but do not thank in advance. I would greatly appreciate your help is the most appropriate way of finishing your letter. 2.7.3 Writing a request for funding or services letter. When you write a request for funding or services letter, you need to state your request precisely. Be sure that your intended reader understands exactly what you want that person to know. First, briefly, give your reason for writing. If you are making a solicited request, be brief and courteous. If you are making an unsolicited request, provide some details about yourself and let your reader know why you have chosen to contact that individual or company. You may have to do some background research on them. Show appreciation in your conclusion, but do not thank in advance. I appreciate your attention to this request, is an appropriate way of finishing your letter. Notice that there is little difference in writing a request letter for many different purposes. Sample of a request letter. This letter is in block format. Provide an introduction to your letter. Introduce yourself. Let the reader know why you chose his company. Identify your source of information. Give your reason for writing. Tabulate your questions and state them precisely. Let your reader know when you need information. Show appreciation. Handy writing service. 10-1 Copyedit Lane, Delhi, 110068, India, September 6, 2004. Mr. Danny Gupta, Vice President, Writer for Hire Company, 26, Lane, Calcutta, 120,655. India. Dear Mr. Gupta, I am interested in obtaining more information about the services you provide. Single quote dot. The company I am with requires 2 writers to write a business writing course for a non-governmental organization. I was intrigued by your company's depth of knowledge and variety of projects from the information you posted on your website. Although writer for hire sounds ideal for my purposes, I am concerned that the company does not have sufficient experience in writing educational materials. I would prefer to use someone with some educational experience. Could you please supply information on the following questions? 1. Has your company written any educational materials previously? 2. If so, do you have any writers who have developed educational materials? 3. Would you provide a sample of this type of writing to me? I would appreciate hearing from you soon, as I must make a decision before October 15th about using a subcontractor. I would appreciate any information you could provide me with, and I look forward to our future correspondence. Yours sincerely, Lalita Singh. Lalita Singh, President, 2.7.4. The response letter. Your response to an inquiry should answer all the questions asked as exactly as possible, and should, at the same time, build goodwill. The response to the previous letter about the writer for hire should be quite brief. However, Mr. Gupta should also promote his company's services if he can meet Ms. Singh's requests. Note the strategies used in the letter, which are explained in the marginal notes. Sample of a response letter. Writer for hire company, 26, Lane, Calcutta, India. September 10, 2004. Ms. Lalita Singh. Handy writing service, 101 Copyedit Lane, Delhi, 110068. India. Ref. Your letter dated September 6, 2004. Dear Ms. Singh, I am confident that we can meet the requirements you set out in your previous letter dated September 6, 2004. I have enclosed sample pieces and the names of writers who would be suitable for your project. I appreciate your concern about the need for the writers to be experienced in writing educational materials. The 2 writers I have submitted to you have considerable experience in both the design and the writing of business communication courses. The writing enclosed herewith will attest to their capabilities. We completed a project some time ago that might be of interest to you. I have included the table of contents for your perusal. If you find anything that is of interest to you, please do not hesitate to contact me. Please let me know if you have further questions. Yours sincerely, Danny Gupta. Danny Gupta, Vice President, Encul, resumes for ad market and out period. Samples of writer's work. Table of contents. 2.8 Writing a memo. What sort of image does a memo create for you? Scrap pieces of paper with scribbles or a hastily written email? A well-written memo is a no-nonsense professional document meant to be read quickly and passed along rapidly. The email message is probably the most common form of memo today. If your memos are contained on scraps of paper or lack organization, the solution is to stick to a format. The following describes how to write an effective memo. 2.8.1 Parts of a memo. Header. The header contains the following information. Date, September 14, 2004. To, A. Sajid. From, D. Southward. C.C. M. Ramni. S. Taylor. Subject, cost estimate for revisions to the annual report. When filling out the header, be specific. Include all the people you think need to be informed and use the office protocol when typing names. If titles are used in your office, TLN include each person's title. When stating the subject, be precise. Annual report alone would not convey the message of the memo. Purpose. Immediately state why you are writing. Answer the questions, who, what, where, why, and when. Example, the purpose of this memo is to request authorization to purchase RAMFOR the computer in the front office. Discussion. Quickly outlive the problem at hand and a potential solution. Start with the old information and work carefully towards the new. Give your reader a sense of the big picture before you zero in on the individual parts. Use active verbs. Use the pronoun I when you are talking about your work. Simplify your language. Instead of somewhere in the proximity of, right near. Instead of at this point in time, right now. Avoid puffing up your writing to nuke yourself appear more unimportant. Example, during the last 4 days, the computer in the front office has crashed 28 times. According to the ZG to the IT group, there is not enough RAM to perform the functions necessary in the front office. Action. ULLESS. The purpose of the memo is simply to inform you should finish with a clear call for action. Who should do what, and how long do they have to do it? You may need to include alternatives, in the event that your readers disagree with you. Be polite when you ask others to do work for you, especially when they are not under your supervision. You may wish to mention the actions that you plan to take next and what your own deadlines are so your reader can gauge how important the project is to you. Example, I would suggest that another 512 megabytes of RAM be purchased within the next 2 days. Another solution would be to transfer the computer from the front office to the back room and purchase a new computer for the front. Rajendra, could you look into what would be the quickest and most cost-effective solution? Sample memo. Date, September 14, 2004. To R. Nair. From D. Southward. CC. M. Rumini. S. Taylor. Subject, RAM for front office computer. The purpose of this memo is to request authorization to purchase RAM for the computer in the front office. During the last 4 days, the computer in the front office has crashed 28 times. According to the IT group, there is not enough RAM to perform the functions necessary in the front office. I would suggest that another 512 megabytes of RAM be purchased within the next 2 days. Another solution would be to transfer the computer from the front office to the back room and purchase a new computer for the front. Rajendra, could you look into what would be the quickest and most cost-effective solution? 2.9 Writing a good business letter. A good business letter is one that gets results. The best way to get results is to develop a letter that, in its appearance, style, and content, conveys information efficiently. To perform this function, a business letter should be concise, clear, and courteous. The business letter must be concise. Little introduction or preliminary chat is necessary. Get to the point, make the point, and leave it. It is safe to assume that your letter is being read by a very busy person with all kinds of paper to deal with. Such a person does not want to spend time on a newsy letter about your ski trip or medical problem. Hone and refine your message until the words and sentences you have used are precise. Revision and rereading take time but are a necessary part of writing a good letter. A short business letter that makes its point quickly has much more impact on a reader than a long-winded, rambling self-assessment activity in creative writing. This does not mean that there is no place for style or even, on occasion, humor in the business letter. While it conveys a message in its contents, the letter also provides the reader with an impression of you, its author. Your style is part of the message. The business letter must be clear. You should have a firm idea of what you want to say, and you should let the reader know it. Use the structure of the letter, the paragraphs, topic sentences, and transitions to guide the reader point by point from your introduction through your reasoning to your conclusion. Paragraph often, to break up the page and to provide visual cues to the organization of your letter. Use an accepted business letter format. There are several, and they can be found in any book of business English. Reread what you have written from the point of view of someone who is seeing it for the first time, and revise to be sure that all necessary information is provided, including reference numbers, dates, and other identification, and that all explanations are clear. A clear message, clearly delivered, is the essence of business communication. The business letter must be courteous. Sarcasm and insults are ineffective and can often work against you. If you are sure you are right, point out the fact as politely as possible. Explain why you are right, and outly tilde what you expect the reader to do. Always put yourself in the place of the person to whom you are writing. What sort of letter would you respond to? How effective would sarcasm and threats be in making you fulfill a request? Another form of courtesy is taking calc in your writing or typing. Grammatical and spelling errors, even if you call them t-ping errors, tell a reader that you don't think enough of him or her to be careful. Such mistakes can lower the reader's opinion of you faster than anything you say, no matter how idiotic. There are excuses for ignorance, there are no excuses for sloppiness. The business letter is your customer-made representative. It speaks for you and is a permanent record of your message. It can pay big dividends on the time you invest in giving it a concise message, a clear structure, and a courteous tone. 2.10 Let us Sumui. In this IGNIT, you learn the importance of subject-verb agreement in sentences and when to use either the active or the passive voice. This knowledge was incorporated into the discussion on topic sentences and paragraph development. You then learned how to write multi-paragraph pieces, which included looking at transitions and parallel structures. Unit 2 also stressed the need to use outlines to organize your thoughts before you begin to write. These outlines can be used for any type of writing, but they were applied in this Unit 2 multi-paragraph prose including business letters and memos. Now that you have had an opportunity to practice these new skills, you will be able to use them in your work environment. Keep a copy of the outline handy to help organize your thoughts. Practice writing memos in the proper format and monitor your readers' reactions. If your writing is clear, concise, and well organized, your readers will be able to easily grasp the ideas you are presenting to them. The next unit moves into more writing practice, focusing on your needs in the workplace. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.